Hello and welcome to another video from Publishing Push. In these videos, we give you tools, tips, guidance, advice, and insights to help you with your self-publishing journey. Everything from writing the book, distributing, publishing, marketing, we will give you the industry insights that you need to have. In today's video, I want to debunk 9 writing tips or items of writing advice that are often given to authors, which I think are terrible and I don't think you should follow. A few of them are okay in principle, but we're going to modify those to make them more applicable for authors. The first myth that we are going to debunk is read everything you can get your hands on. I don't agree with this piece of advice. I don't think you should read everything you can get your hands on. Yes, you do need to be well read in order to, have good grammar, have a good understanding of the market or the genre potentially that you're writing for. I don't think that you should read all sorts of books for the sake of it. Life's too short to read things that you don't enjoy or things that aren't very good. So again, take that piece of advice with a pinch of salt. Don't read everything you can get your hands on. Myth number 2 is to write every day. Fantastic in principle, but I don't know about you, my life is quite busy. I have a lot of things I have to do and I'm not a full-time writer, so I don't have time to write every single day. If you do have time, fantastic, and if you are able to carve out the time, then well done. It certainly will stand you in good stead, but really I think this piece of advice should be modified to do something towards your writing project every day. What I mean by that is it could be as simple as thinking about one of your characters, spending some time if you're walking or you're on a commute, just thinking, how could I modify that character? What could I do about that scene? As long as you're thinking about your book every day and thinking of items to improve it, then you will do very well. So write every day. Don't feel pressured to write every single day. I just think for most people, that piece of advice isn't practical. If you're enjoying this video about the 9 writing tips and 9 pieces of writing advice that you should ignore, then please do like the video and subscribe to the channel, as we will be bringing many more videos like this. You can also follow us on social media at Publishing Push. Myth number 3 is don't start writing a novel, write a short story first. I'm afraid I don't agree with this piece of advice. Writing a short story and writing a novel are 2 very different disciplines. They require very different elements and ingredients. So if you want to write a novel, go ahead and write a novel. If you want to write a short story, go and do that. By all means, one, of course, will complement the other the more you are writing, but I would not start by writing a short story to then go and create a novel. Really, if you want to write a novel and you have an idea for a novel, go ahead with writing the novel. Number 4, that dialogue is all about recreating human speech. Again, I don't agree with this piece of advice for writing. If you listen to a conversation throughout your day, people will pause, they repeat themselves, they talk in circles. Emily, who films these videos for me, has to listen to me try and repeat myself and get a phrase out multiple times. Because there are, if we were reading a book where the dialogue imitated human interactions exactly and human dialogue exactly, it would be very boring. Because what you need from the dialogue in your book is to get to the point. So by all means, keep it in the same tone or style that that particular person would have in real life, but again, it doesn't need to exactly imitate human dialogue. Okay, myth number 5 is, this one really gets me. Don't worry about grammar. That's what spell check is for. So yes, spell check is useful, a proofreader is useful, but it is important that you understand the core elements of grammar, just in terms of getting the book in a state where then you can pass it on to an editor or pass it on to a proofreader, and they don't have to spend hours and hours deciphering what you've written. So grammar is important. The way I often explain this to people is, imagine you showed up to a job interview and you're wearing ripped clothes and you hadn't had a shower and it was a complete mess. People will judge you by your appearance. That is just an unfortunate fact of, society. That's, we're very visual beings. We go off what we can see. The same is true for your grammar. So people will think, oh, they haven't put much care or attention into their writing. This probably isn't worth going further with. And, so that's why I would urge you to really understand grammar. You don't have to be an expert. Yes, that is why you have copy editors and proofreaders, but have a working knowledge of grammar and most of the basic and the core principles. Okay, so number 6. This one I'm always conflicted about. It is good advice in one sense, but bad advice in another sense. And this particular piece of bad writing advice is write what you know. Now, I want to caveat this by saying it's only bad advice if you take this literally. So I shall explain. Write what you know is fantastic if you have led a very interesting, varied life, but for most people, particularly if they're writing fantasy or science fiction, it's difficult to write what you know. Most people haven't been to space, or they don't have supernatural powers or, superhuman strength. So they have to envisage or imagine what that might be like. So there are certain topics that are very hard when it comes to writing what you know. That being said, what you do want to draw from are your own experiences. So potentially it could be adversity. Have you faced adversity? How did you deal with it? And then you could put that into the character who is, the main character in your story. So write what you know. You have to draw from what you know, draw from your own experiences. But again, when you're writing in certain genres, of course, you're going to have to use your imagination and push further and push beyond. Okay, number 7 on our list of 9, said is dead. So the idea here is that anytime you say Patrick said, you should try not to use the word said in your writing. I don't know if you've received this writing advice in the past. I think it's particularly bad advice. You don't need to remove the word said. Said often is what I would call an invisible word. When you're reading a book, you don't really even notice that it's there. And on top of that, it's often used a bit like punctuation. So Patrick said, and then the next line will start. I don't think you need to always be using other words in its place, such as announced. Patrick announced this rather than Patrick said this. You can where that's applicable, but you don't need to avoid using the word said altogether in your writing. Okay, number 8 is view your characters like tools rather than people. So I've heard this bit of writing advice used quite often. I don't think it will help you create characters that the readers can really relate to, sympathize with, and get behind. I do think from a wider perspective, it would help you to potentially make your characters do terrible things or, kill off characters if you're not too attached to them and you just see them as tools. But for me personally, the stories that I engage with the most are ones where you're rooting for a character or there's more of an emotional connection. So I don't think this is fantastic advice. I would be more emotional with your characters, think about what they're going through. And the same, if they are doing things that are wrong or bad, it's probably going to be more interesting to think, how are they coping with these things? What are the coping mechanisms they use? And that could potentially then create more layers to your character. Number 9, so I saved this one till last. This piece of advice, if you have a passion for writing, you should absolutely ignore it, and that is, don't aspire to be a writer. Have a backup plan. Don't make this your main focus. If you truly have something that you're passionate about in life, whether it be writing or whether it be, something else that you particularly enjoy, then you should pursue that passion, because passion in life is quite rare. So if you really enjoy writing and you want to be a successful writer, then give it your all. It's not going to happen unless you give it your all. I'm not saying go and quit your job and throw caution to the wind, but if this is something that you really enjoy doing, then put as much effort into it as possible. There are lots of authors who are making very good money as an author, so don't be put off. Once again, thank you for watching another video from Publishing Push. Once again, please do like, subscribe, comment below, and we look forward to bringing you more advice, guidance, and information on publishing in our next